a star in the nighttime. I'ma go hard when it's my time. Yeah, I'm hard and I'm light. You know you can't pause when the time's right. Sitting in the stars and watching you. You gotta ride the tug away.
Good afternoon and welcome to Season 3 on Chatbox with Sam. Today's guest is Maryann Maisano. She's an actress, director, writer, comedian. And good afternoon, Maryann. How are you?
Hey, great, Sam. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Oh no, the honour's all mine. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and on Season 3 and a comedian. I did interview John Fugelsang on Season 1. So you got to have a good comedian come in on the show. That's just perfect. And you've got such a wonderful voice as well. So you were in the Italian Chicks. Would you like to share with the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I actually created the Italian Chicks, so I'm the creator, producer, and headliner of the show. And prior to, as I was developing the show and doing casting, my sister went to a wedding, and at that wedding was Danny Aiello. Now, my sister, God rest her soul, was no longer with us, but she was much older than me and very shy. So she was very much unlike me, okay?
Yes.
And she went into this wedding, and there was Danny, and she went to her car and got my CD. And she said, "You have to listen to my sister's music." And she calls me from the bathroom whispering, like, "Honey," and she's telling me, and I didn't want to make her feel bad because it's like, a lot of people do that, and it doesn't mean it. You know that in this business, It doesn't necessarily mean anything,
Right.
You can't get excited about things until you sign a contract, right? So, 3 months later, I'm lying on the sofa, and Danny had a very distinct speaking voice. Like you could always tell when Danny spoke. It was a very sexy voice.
Right.
And Danny calls up and he goes, "Maryann Maisano, this is Danny Aiello." And I have a lot of friends that are impersonators. And I thought it was because they used to call me up and do De Niro and The Godfather and all this. So as soon as he said that, I said, "Oh, give me a friggin' break. It's not Danny." And he starts laughing and he goes, "No, it really is Danny Aiello." And I was like, "Oh, sorry. I apologize," right?
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so he started getting into singing. He was doing a lot of crooning. And he like had a big band with him. And he was doing a good job, really. And he fell in love with one of the songs I wrote, which was called City of Light. And he wanted it on his next CD. And
Oh,
I was over the moon because like, hey, sure, take it. It's in my house on my shelf. I'd be happy to have you do it. And he did the song. It came out fantastic. We wound up doing a duet, and it was nominated for a Grammy.
wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty cool. So he was great. So he and I connected immensely, and then I put my the Italian Chicks comedy and variety show together, and he came to one of the shows and fell in love with the show and decided to endorse the show as well. So he was really integral in. I mean, he was like when you meet people in the business, some people are a little pretentious and a little about themselves.
Yeah.
Danny was a very giving guy. And Danny would call me up in the morning and say, "Yo, kid, I'm going down to Pearl Studio. I'm rehearsing this Broadway play. You want to come down and hang out for the day?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, great." It's great for me. So I'd go down and hang out with his manager and watching him. And it was just so, he was such a great actor.
Amazing. Yes, he was.
Watching rehearse stuff, like you were just like in awe. And we'd leave there and we'd be walking down the street in Manhattan, go to some little like joint for restaurant for dinner, and people would just be stopping him. "Oh, can you sign this? Can you sign that?"
Right.
And I was so flattered because after like 12 times somebody came up, some young guy, he signs it for the guy and he goes, "Get another piece of paper out." And the kid goes, "Okay." And he goes, "Now ask her for her autograph because
Aww.
well, I was dying. So he was a very kind and generous man. And then when I started writing my one woman play,
Right.
it's one thing to do a scene with you and I. If you and I were doing a scenes together, right?
Right.
Or in a play and it was the two of us. And for some reason I lost my mind, right? I couldn't find the next line. And you would know how to feed me that line,
Right.
and I'd be, oh yeah, it came back and I would just jump in. But when you're doing a one woman play and you're doing four characters, there's nobody going to give you a line.
Wow.
Like you're up there by
By
yourself. And
yourself. Yeah.
if
You
you
like
forget it,
improv, right?
yeah, you forget it, you're screwed. And don't forget, you have a sound guy with sound cues following your script.
Wow.
So if you go off, he's totally off, trying to go like, well, where the hell is she going to go? My biggest fear was when I was rehearsing this is like, I used to say, Dan, what if I get up there and just, I don't know, maybe just nerves or something or whatever. I just screw up a line and I misplace. And he goes, first of all, never say that, because if you say it, you're going to make it happen.
Right.
And that will always be your biggest fear. He goes, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I didn't. It was amazing because when we filmed it, I did not miss a beat.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah.
Oh, I know, because you were also in the key and Agita. So
Yeah.
so
Well,
what
that's so, can you say that to me again when you said with the A?
Agita?
Yeah. It's the Italian, well, it's so cute because it's very British, Agita, but it's really Agita. Okay.
I'm terrible with names. I
No,
put my hands up to it.
no, love. You know why? Because it's an Italian word.
Right.
Agita. You would not know, there would be no reason for you to know it.
No.
Yeah. So
No.
Agita in the key, Agita is my one woman play. And agita means that feeling you get when you throw up a little bit in the back of your throat and it starts to burn.
Oh gosh, acid.
That's it. So that's agita, which means you're agitated. So that's what,
Ah.
right. And it's interesting because people used to interview me and say, well, why would you think that people would want to know about your life and your like what is so important about your story? And it's not that my story is important. It's about, I think, the journey we go through in life.
Everybody's
And
important. Every single story is important.
you're totally right. You're totally right. But what it leaves or impresses upon someone is another story. And I don't think that I'm so special that my story is, but I do feel that when you share your stories and you go through different traumas in your life and you're dealing with, well, first of all, I'm first generation Italian. My parents were born in Italy.
Right.
So I grew up in a house where, my dad came here and my mom, he met my mom, they got married, and then he went off to war because the United States Army drafted him and he went back to Europe. So when he came back, he opened up the first cab company in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is 5 minutes from Manhattan.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and it was my father. He was, a good-looking guy, and he loved the ladies more than he should have. Typical Italian. And back in the day, generationally, women stayed with their men.
Right.
They didn't leave. And as a young child, my mom would get these phone calls from her friends going, Mary, your husband Joe is parked at the end of the block. She would rip me off the couch, throw me in the back of the caddy, drove it like she stole it, and we'd go down and catch my father with some chick in the car. Okay.
Oh my gosh, naughty boy.
Yes, and she would scream at this lady, blah, 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 and he would just take the lady, put her back in the car, and drive off. And there was a common thread, like every time that happened, we would come home, he would come home an hour later, and then for 3 days, nothing was said. Nobody spoke to each other. And on the third day, my mom would always say, Joe, come and eat. And then as a young child, I would stop and in my mind say, did he ever say he was sorry? Why
Right.
was she looking for him? I mean,
Because she loved him, and back
right.
then
And then
that was that was
love,
you know
yeah, is this what love is all about?
yeah
So that
no
was the common thread. And then, like crazy, my brother and sisters that were crazy and like therapy and then coming out to my family. And, that's unthinkable in an Italian house.
right
Okay. You'll
yeah
come out, lay on the ground and stab yourself in the eye. Okay. So it was just so interesting, all the things that happened. And then sharing my mom's passing and my dad's passing. So it was really a
oh
drama. And the funny thing about that is that, for me going to banking and being this big vice president of sales and banking, and then being able to get out of it and get back into what I love and follow my passions. I believe that, every story that you have is a teachable moment for somebody else.
Absolutely.
Everybody can relate to something that happened to you,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, I agree 100%. We're all here. It's like, I think it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and we're all pieces of a jigsaw puzzle,
Yeah.
and we're placed in some, and we belong somewhere, or we don't, and things that happen to us, we either learn from them or we don't. That is
Totally.
our personal growth, our personal choice to grow
Yeah.
from something or ignore it and be arrogant of it. It's our personal choice. I mean, sometimes we make the same mistake more than once.
Yeah.
Maybe because we don't understand why we made them in the first place. You never know.
Right. Right. Or sometimes it's just, again, like, when you were raised a certain way.
And with your
And
dad, he just had a high testosterone level.
yes. So that's what the difference. That's why when I was going to my therapist, it was really difficult for me because one minute I was my dad and I was extremely unavailable. And the next minute I was my mom and I was very available.
Right.
So I couldn't figure out, I was
Who
too
you
afraid.
were.
Yeah, and I was too afraid to tell anybody I love them because I figured once I did, they would cheat on me.
Oh, dear.
You see? So it was
Yeah.
going through all of that to try to come where I finally did, where you finally reach that point in your life and you go like, wow, I get it. But it doesn't mean that it ever goes away. I mean,
No.
you could be in counseling and you can work on it. The thing is, once you've worked on it and you know what it is, you still have those knee-jerk moments.
Right.
It's a
There's
hot button.
stressors.
Yeah, it's a hot button pushes you, and you start to feel that, and you go, okay, but you know it now, and you
Right.
know how to manage it now. You don't let it control you. You kind of flip it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true. I mean, it is a choice. And sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it
totally.
does take a while.
Yeah,
So,
and we always go back to the patterns, whether they were good or bad.
right. So
It's like,
what inspired you going through all that as a child? What inspired you to become an actress and then a singer? Obviously, the singer is deep in your soul. What inspired you to pursue that?
well, honestly, I won. I was the youngest of four, so and I was like a big age difference between me and my other sister, but so I was like the bump in the night baby. You know what I mean? Like when my father got up for some supersad and my mother went to the bathroom, they met and had me. Okay. So it was an accident. But when I was 12 years old, I always loved music. I mean, because my sisters always had, like the Shirelles playing and all these girl bands in the house,
Yeah.
and we would all sing, like dance together. But when I was 12 years old, my brother took me to the Jersey Shore. And those big reels of chance with the numbers on them, and you put a quarter.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was up there, and I'm like, I go, give me a quarter, Joe. Give me a quarter. So I take this quarter, I put it on number 30, which has always been my lucky number. Put it on
Okay.
number 30. Guy spins the wheel, and I'm watching it, and it lands on number 30. And the guy says to me, little girl, you got your choice of the stand. And I go, I want the guitar. My brother goes, do the guitar. You know how to play it. Get the TV. And I'm like, I want the guitar.
Guitar.
Yeah. And I took this, it was electric guitar. Imagine it was like so warped from being by the salt water and all that.
Yeah.
And I carried it home. And the next day I went to a music store and I bought all these books. And every day when I got home from school, I went straight to my room and I played my guitar until I
Oh.
played The House of the Rising Sun.
That was the first thing I learnt on the guitar.
You see, this is so many people relate to that.
Right? But I can't play the
Yeah,
guitar now, but that's the first thing I learned. House of the
see?
Rising Sun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I played that damn song every day. And my mother not once came in and said, Maryann, could you learn another song?
Song.
Always say, babe, that was beautiful. Mommy loved it.
Oh, bless
And
her.
I just felt like, I don't know, ever since when I was, believe it or not, this is going to sound silly, but coming from this big Italian family, every Sunday was like a festival in our house. And all of our relatives and people that my father brought over from Italy to stay here, everybody came over. So it was a big day for us, you know?
Right.
And when my mom was making dessert in the kitchen, she would say to me, Maryann, go out and sing for everybody. And I was 5 years old. And
Oh.
I would get on a chair and I would sing. And they did this. And I don't know, I gravitated towards all that. And I started a local band and we were playing like high school dances. And then I went on the road with a rock and roll band. And that's when my father got a little crazy. And then he said to me, Marianna, you better get a real job and at the benefits.
Spoken like a true Italian gent.
Yeah, yeah. And, I guess at that time I felt that he was attacking me, that he felt like I couldn't do anything. But, like, old timers, you don't think the way they think. And
Yeah,
really,
they don't understand the industry. You know,
no.
they think
And
it's not a real job.
right. And they think like, and I also realized that he was worried about me in the future. So I felt challenged. So I just walked into a local bank and got a job as a teller.
Right.
And they gave me the drive up window, which was the worst thing you could give me. A microphone.
Come on, please tell us a few stories about that.
I suppose it's in my play, I'll tell you the truth. So I'd be at the window, and everybody knew me in town. It wasn't like, they used to come to my shows. I still was performing. I had my band,
Right.
and I'd have this guy come up and he'd go, hey, man, you're going to be down on Saturday night, Friday night. You're going to be at that place, Skyview. I go, yeah, we're going to be playing down there. You got to come down. I got a new drummer. You're going to love him. And he goes, oh, you do this song? And I go, yeah, I do it. And he goes, well, can you do it? I go, I'll do it for you when you come down. He goes, no, can you do it now? And and I look this way and I look that way and I start saying to him, oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all have Porsches. I must make amends.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he's hysterical. So everybody that pulled up, I sang to them
Oh,
in the
that's
bank.
fantastic.
And then I broke the microphone. And then, I don't know why, they promoted me to accounting. I guess they just didn't want me to break any more shit. I have no idea.
Right.
So from there, I'm a
That's
person
funny.
that can constantly do something, And I was in this accounting of all, and I'm dyslexic, so it was very difficult. Okay? And I'm in this accounting division, and I would do my job, and I would do it like this. And when I was done, I would go over to you, and I'd say, hey, Sam, what do you do? And then I said, would you show me? And you would show me, and then I go to the next person. Before you know it, I knew everybody's job in accounting.
Oh, awesome.
And then I started moving up. Now, you got to remember, when you're that young and you were a working musician, you had what they pay you paid you in cash, and you got very little money. And my apartment was just one bed on the floor, no box spring, and my end tables were amplifiers.
Oh,
That's how
that's how you started off, right?
you did what you had to do. So now I'm making all this money, and I'm like, so that's where you got to be careful, because that's how the devil sneaks in. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Did you buy yourself a box spring?
I bought myself a Mercedes.
There you go. You sang it and then you drove it.
Right? It was so funny because all of a sudden, like, banks were being taken over, and because I was a junior officer that knew a little bit about a lot of things. So
Right.
everybody else would get fired, and they'd keep me. And so, before you know it, I was VP of Sales and Operation for a tri-state bank in New York, New Jersey, and Florida. And I
Wow.
was making over six figures. And I had not an ounce of creativity in my body left, because I was fried. I
Right.
mean, anybody that's been in that world, you're up way at the crack of dawn. You're out there, you're dealing with the politics of the bank itself.
Right.
Then you're trying to train people in customer experience and sales training.
Right.
And it's very difficult. And you come home and you want to do something, but you're white.
Too tired. Yeah, because it gets your brain. I do accounting and it does. It fries your brain. Yeah.
Get your brain. You can't think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember giving one of my motivational seminars to the sales team. And I always would start it out with, so by a show of hands, how many of you knew when you were 5 years old that you wanted to be a banker. And then I'd look around the room and nobody go, of course not. You wanted to be a ballerina or a cowboy or a fireman. Come
Right.
on. Listen, people, I knew when I was 5 years old what I wanted to be. And then it just stopped. And I said to myself, what the hell are you doing? And I went through the rest of the seminar. And the next day I drove to the chairman and CEO's office because he hired me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in and I resigned my 6-figure position.
Wow. That was
And
brave.
I had to, because I just said, if I don't do it, I'll never know. And I left there, and that's when I created, because I was so
Did your father have a conniption fit?
well, unfortunately, my father was passed by then.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'll tell you something funnier. My mom, who was my biggest fan, okay, I didn't tell my mom I quit because I was like the only kid in the family that kind of made it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they relied on me for things, and I would help my mom. And I was afraid she'd be like, "Oh, what'd you do? What are you crazy? Where are you gonna get that kind of money?" Blah, blah,
Yeah.
So I called her every day like I would, like I'd come home from work, and I go, "Hi, Ma, what are you doing?" "Oh, nothing. How was work?" "Ah, same shit. What about your day?" And that's what I would do, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was, I created, when I left the bank, and because I had this left brain, right brain, and I knew how to do this stuff, a 3-phase business plan. But the business plan was me.
Right.
And what I did was, the first phase was I needed to create a CD of music because it was stuck in me. I must have wrote 12 songs in like less than 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And that's the CD that Danny found the song on. The second
Oh,
phase was to create an all-female Italian comedy and variety show and call it the Italian Chicks. Then the third phase was to write my one-woman play. So I had it all lined out, and I would do everything in steps, right? So it was funny because the Italian Chicks were doing well, and we were doing this in Hoboken. They were having this big Italian festival, and it was in Sinatra Park, Frank Sinatra Park, because Sinatra was born in Hoboken. So they hired us to do the show outdoors. The newspaper did the most amazing article with photos, 2 pages full of. I totally forgot my mom gets that newspaper.
oh.
So now,
Busted.
so now
Busted on the front page.
yes, exactly. So I call her like I always do, like I'm coming home for work. And this time she sounds a little cocky, like she swallowed a bird, you know? And she got this little twinkle in her voice, and she goes, "Babe, do you got something to tell mommy?"
Oh.
"No." "Oh, come on. Are you sure?" And I go, "Yeah, nothing. Why?" She goes, "Mommy read the newspaper." I was like, "Ma," and I was getting ready to say, "I'm sorry." And she said to me, "Listen, I just want to let you know something. You're my baby, and you can do anything."
Oh. See,
And
that's a mother's love right there.
it is, and it's weird because I remember like growing up, and we'd have all our relatives over, and they'd be talking half Italian, half English, broken English, whatever, and they would always say, "So Mariana, when are you going to get married?" And I didn't want to say anything to anybody then because my family knew, but I just was like, I'm too busy. I love my guitars, doing that,
Right.
that kind of. But it was so funny because I used to say to my mother, because the Italians would never mail the invitation to the wedding to us directly. They would always mail everything to my mother
Okay.
and say, "Okay, so give this to Maryann, give this to Angie, give this to Rosemary, give this to Joey." Okay.
Right.
And so she would call me up and go, "Babe, I got an invitation to your cousin's wedding." I go, "Mom, I'm not going. Just leave the thing." Because you know why, Mom? Nobody's ever going to buy me a friggin' blender. So I'm not going. Okay. But so I remember it's funny, my cousins, and you think it's a joke, but it's really not. So here it goes. It's Tina, Pina, Rosalina, Angelina. Okay. Joseph and little Joey. That's what it was. Okay. So my cousin Tina said to me, she was promised And I looked at her and I go, promised? What do you mean? Well, I came to find out that promise meant on the day you were married, your parents promised you to another family who would have their first boy.
Right.
So that meant when you were married, your mom took your baby picture in Italy, walked up 20,000 flights of stairs in Calabria, okay? Knocked on somebody's door, said, here's the baby's picture, give me your son's picture. And that was it. When you grew up, that's who you were going to marry, regardless
Oh,
if you loved him or,
betrothal.
yeah, that's whether you loved him or not. So when they came to America, they were like young girls. They were like teenagers, all right?
Right.
Maybe. So I remember my cousin Tina, who became more Americanized than the rest of them because she was a hairdresser
Right.
and working in a salon and da. And all of a sudden, she started dating this hot Italian boy that drove a motorcycle. That was like James Dean. You know what I mean? She
Right.
like until the phone call came that, oh, your husband, he's coming from Italy now. And when he comes, he's going to stay in his uncle's house. And then a couple of months later, we planted the wedding and everybody gets married.
I'll be like, oh, hell no.
I would have been on that motorcycle so far away. But you know what? She did it. And she was like hysterical crying because she was so madly in love with this guy.
Oh, no.
And she just couldn't do it to her family. And I was like,
I'd do it. I wouldn't care.
I'd be done. I'd be like,
I mean, what happened was the other guy that came in from Italy. I mean, what if he was really bad?
yes. I mean, I don't know if he was a bad person, but really, I mean, you have to put a bag over his head. You really have to. Okay?
I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm breaking tradition right now.
I know. But imagine, that's what I'm saying. Imagine me, who was really so far. I mean, I was the hippie. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And I'm like free love and all this other shit. And these people are like, I'm like, what? Why would you do that? Like, well, that's sweet to do that. And I was just astonished at the things I, would learn. And music is the one thing that no matter where you are, whenever you hear a song, you'll always remember where you were or what you were doing when you heard that song.
Absolutely.
That something is your purpose and that you were born absolutely to do this and nothing else. Then you have to have a plan A. You can never have a plan B because as you know, in this business, it has ups, downs, back, forth, hurry up and wait, and you're pulled like this and you could be discouraged really easily and even financially. Yeah, I just think it's important for people that are trying to do this. They just have to have faith in themselves, believe that God is not going to let you fall in the 11th hour and just keep pushing through.
That's good advice. Very, very,
Because
very good advice.
If you doubt it, you're doubting your own talent and what you could bring to the table.
Right.
And I've always been a huge manifester. Of course, I was born and raised Roman Catholic, but I don't go to church. I go to church when it's not in session. And I have there's a beautiful stone church that's like in the historical center around here, and it's gorgeous. It's this tiny little thing that was built way back when, and I go in it and I light a candle and I just sit there, and sometimes I sing.
Ah.
The acoustics are stunning, and so it's like that's when I go once in a while, once in a blue moon to do something like that. Usually every night I'm doing this manifestation of my crystals and I just try to keep, you got to believe both.
Okay.
And I'm really an introvert.
Right.
I'm an extrovert on stage where I'm supposed to be. But if I remember going to a party and a friend of mine took me to some party or whatever, and I knew like one person there, and I'm very low key and I just listen. I'm a listener.
Right.
And a people watch. So I'm listening and then finally this friend came over that knew me or acquaintance and said, oh my God, hi, how are you? And then she goes, oh my God, you gotta go see her show. She's great, a great voice. People's going on. People go, you do comedy too? I go, yeah. Well, tell me a joke. I go, I don't do jokes. You know what? Come see my show. I'm not a lucky. You know what I mean? Like, we
You
had a
just
little
improv all the way, right?
yeah, right. I mean, I'm not going to sit here in a room and start going there. I don't do that. So I'm
Right.
very low key like that. So and I am a Cancer in the fact that, I'm a big nester and
Right.
my house is all about, the house is like my sanctity, my place.
Yeah, that's mine too. Yeah. It's good being on the road, but it's good to get home again, you know.
Totally.
If you were going to be an advocate for any charities, which charities would those be and why?
It would be domestic violence.
Please elaborate.
My sister, the one who I told you before, I said, God rest her soul. She, this June, she'll be gone a year. And she was married to some animal and people always say when I tell the story, they go, well, why didn't she leave? And I say, listen,
It's
if you
not
don't
that easy.
understand the complexity and psychology of being a prisoner of war, you don't understand why women don't leave. And she was, like I said, a lot older, and she tried to leave. And back in the day, remember, there was a rule here in the States that was, if you left your husband, it was you would get nothing because you deserted him.
Right.
So she did that once, and then, and she was just a hairdresser. It's not like she had tons of money. And she went back and she had kids. So, this animal just was horrible to her, all of their marriage. And she was married to this guy for 50 years. And the last 5 years of her life, he got worse. And he was an alcoholic as well.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah. And he got worse. And her two daughters are, one daughter is married, and my one niece is gay and married with a child, and my other niece, beautiful girl, 53, stunning, 5'3", unfortunately came down with Parkinson's.
Oh.
So that would be Parkinson's and domestic violence. But it it was really sad because she had, she was, look, it was, we kept trying to get her to go, and she'd get there, and then she'd just be so afraid because she believed he was going to kill her, and he would
Right.
find him. And, even with these restraining orders, these idiots, they're outside your
They
house.
don't care. They don't care.
Yeah, if they want to kill you, they're going to kill you. And the last couple of years, like, he sold the house and he made more money, and he always said to her, "You'll never leave me." He goes, "The day you leave this house, you'll be in a pine box." And yeah.
Oh, God.
So the kids, he sold a house, and she was like, she wasn't feeling well. Oh, she wound up getting, she had to get open heart surgery because she had an aorta, an aneurysm in
An
her
aneurysm.
aorta. And if they didn't do it, it could have exploded. The
Right.
reason why she got the aneurysm is because he punched her in the stomach. Now, if you took everything that was wrong with her, the common denominator was all trauma. So if you go on a stand, it's very hard because a doctor could say, well, yeah, that's caused by trauma. And then somebody could say, well, it's not him. You know what I mean? Like, it's very difficult to have a suit like that and try to win it.
Right.
And so what happened was her children, which I was trying to call her for 3 months, he would hang up the phone, her cell phone. I couldn't get through to her. And her children, he would let talk to her. And then finally they called me. It was March 2020. I was sitting right here where I am right now. And they called me and said, something's wrong. He won't let us go up and see her, and blah, blah, blah. And I knew that they were like 7 minutes from my house. And I got in the car, I called the police, and they knew his pattern. So I said, meet me at the corner. Don't meet me at the house. And they met me at the corner, and I said, listen, he's in the driveway putting stuff in his car. I don't want you to pull up, because if you pull up, he's going to be the nicest guy. But if I walk in the driveway and he sees me, then you'll see the real person.
Right.
And I said, so you guys stay behind me. And they did. And as soon as I walked in the driveway, he went crazy, screaming the most obscene words that you could ever use to a woman.
Right.
And then of course, it was like a bad scene from an Italian movie, I tell you. Because immediately I went, "Are you trying to kill my sister, you?" And I ran after him, right? So there are the cops. The cops pick me up, and I'm like, put me down, okay? And I see my poor sister, like barely not even able to walk. And I grabbed her, I took her on the side, and I put my hands over her ears. Because whenever he was in that situation, he would always try to call her to like, he'd go like, "Hey, Ange, Ange." And I put her hands on her ears, and I said, "Just look in my eyes. Just look in my eyes. I want you to know that we love you. Mommy and daddy are here. Brother is here. We're all here for you. Don't listen to anything." And she's crying. And we went to the police station. We didn't see him at all. But when I went to the lavatory with her, I took off her coat, and all of a sudden I look at her arm and I go, "What the hell happened?" Her arm was totally black and blue from here to here. And then this woman had 4 concussions and 2 aneurysms in her head. And she goes to me, "Look at my head." And I go, "What?" She's pulling her hair back and her head was black and blue. I go, "What's that?" He was hitting her every night with his belt buckle. And you know why he was doing that? He was trying to get her head swollen so that these aneurysms would just pop. It was all about this, all about the money.
I'm so sorry.
So thank God, we got the restraining order, but we got her away. And then, she just there was so many things wrong with her from him that she lasted less than a year.
Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So that gets me because it's like, when you see that's a hot button. Like you remember the movie with Tina Turner, What's Love
Yeah,
Got to
with
Do?
Ike. Yeah.
Remember that scene where he has her in the recording studio?
And he's going to shoot her.
He's gonna beat the shit out. He's beating the shit out of her in the house.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
I have to get up and walk out of the room as soon as I know that scene's coming because
Right.
I just can't. Now the Key is a short film that I wrote and directed, but I also have like 3-4 minutes I come in at the end. And the Key is a love story, and it's an LGBTQ film about 2 women that meet and have this amazing chemistry. That and one is just like, there's one person who is the seductress and the other person that just melts to the ground.
Right.
So I was the idiot that melted to the ground all the time, okay? Because I'm a hopeless romantic. I should say a hopeful romantic. But interestingly enough, it was based on this situation that I was involved in. And it was like an on again, off again 4-year thing because there was always this connection when we were together.
Right.
Uncontrollable. So I wrote this monologue about this, and I went to a short film festival, and I was in this theater watching these about an hour and a half worth of shorts, and I came out very inspired. And I got in the car with my friend because we were going there because she was nominated for Best Actress. Unfortunately, she didn't win. And we're in the car, and I said to her, G, I wrote this monologue at home. I think I could turn that into a short film.
Yeah.
She goes, "Really?" "Yeah. But this is what I did." Now, being a creative yourself, creatives are weird people in many ways, okay? Because our process is a little, it's a little.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I'm looking at the monologue. And what I did was I took the monologue and I broke it out into scenes. And then underneath each scene, I wrote down what I wanted. Let's say you were playing one of the characters. I wanted you to emote specific feelings.
Right.
And I would write down what they were. And I would say, I also wanted you to lean in and kiss her or something like that. And this went on, right? And then, and it's a thing where it plays out, and then all of a sudden the screen goes black and says 10 years later.
Right.
And I walk into this park, this stunning park, okay? And we had we had 3 cameras and an aerial drone. And when I tell you this was overlooking the Hudson, the George Washington Bridge, it was fall. So the colors, it was spectacular.
Beautiful.
Oh, man. So I'm in the living room and I say to myself, well, this is what I want to do. I'm breaking this out into scenes, but I don't want any of these actors to talk. I'm going to do the narrative, and I just want them to react to my narrative.
Okay.
And I go, wow. That's a great idea, right? I'm in the kitchen, I'm doing things, right? And 2 hours later, I walk back out and I sit back and look at the script and I go, wow, what if this really sucks? And it's not a good idea, right? So,
Well, you don't know until you try.
yeah, but you know how you do that to yourself,
Yeah,
right? It's not a good
you
idea.
question yourself.
Yeah, so I call a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, and we've been friends forever. And he's an actor and a playwright and he teaches acting and I just love him to pieces. And I trust him. So
Right.
I called him up and I give him the whole spiel, blah, 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 blah. And I go, and then Frank, nobody has dialogue. It's just blah, blah, blah. What do you think? And he goes, I think that's brilliant. I go, you do? He
You
goes,
like
yeah.
it?
Yes. Now I run with it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, the two actors that I hired, this one girl, Nikki Silva, knocked me out. I mean, because I expected them also. I said, listen, I'm giving you what you need to emote, and you need to kiss here, be a little more affectionate here, whatever. But you have to be able to be improvisational, and that's hard. And I said, and don't worry because we're going to be following you. We had a megaphone in the park with the narrative coming out, so they knew where their placement was
Awesome.
as well.
Right.
Which was great because how are you gonna react to that, not even hearing where the parts are?
Right.
So everything was just wild, right? And then see it's called The Key because it starts out with I met the love of my life right here at this spot. And it zooms down to a tree trunk that was cut off a stump. You see all this beautiful foliage, okay? And the river and the whole bit, right? And the whole thing is that during this, I'm talking and I'm telling their story and their passion and their this and the connection and this girl, back and forth, she would run away and it was perfect. I couldn't have asked God for a better thing. All of a sudden I go, and then one day, and they're walking back, she just vanished. And they both let go of their hands, and one girl went the other way. And then you see a bird. It was the only bird flying. And I go to one of the camera guys, get that freaking bird. I thought it was so like poignant that she left like a free bird,
Right, yes. And then, yes, perfect.
Flew away. And I was like, damn, thank you for that bird, right?
Yeah.
So the bird flies in, right? She leaves. And then, but before she leaves, she's leaning against this wall and she's telling the woman that I just want you to know, if ever we lose our way, come back to the forest and go to the tree. If there's a key on the tree trunk, it's the key to my heart. And I will always love you. Take it.
So I've just gone cold.
So what happens is when I walk in 10 years later, now 10 years later, right? I walk in and you just see my chucks walking, like you just
right.
And then I look down to the tree trunk and there's the key.
A key. She always gave you a heart a long time ago.
Yeah. So I picked up the key and I'm looking at it with like, and I'm lovelorn and I'm like tearful and I'm crying and then I pull it away and I go, no, it can't be. It is. It's the same damn key. Right. And then I look at it with this soulful smile and I go from a smile to a pissed off look. And now I throw the key away. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. When did you leave this key here? Yesterday? 10 years ago? 5 days ago? I mean, for Christ's sakes. I mean, what about the woman you're with now? Does she know I have the goddamn key to your heart? I mean, look, I was just feeling a little nostalgic. Come on now. Lighten up, right?
Right.
And so I walk away. And I told him when I walk away, shoot me in slow motion. So then the credits start. Everybody thinks it's over. Right after the first credit, you see me running back in. And I'm on the grass in the ground.
Looking for the key.
I mean, that's the human side of it.
It is because the first of all is pride and stubbornness and the fear of rejection. So you reject automatically, and then you walk off, and then you realise, hey, no. So, what a great story. So, where can people find this to view it?
Right now, it's on Venmo on demand.
Okay.
And within the next 2 weeks, I should be getting word, and hopefully it'll be out on Amazon, Netflix, and all that. So that's what I'm hoping for right now.
Okay, and where can people find your music or the Italian
If
Chicks?
they go onto any type of music platform, whether it's Apple or Spotify, but the easiest way to find everything is go to the italianchicks.com. And up you'll see all the tabs, and you can click for Agita. It'll take you right to the link to Venmo. You can click the key, take you right there. And then you go to YouTube and you'll find all my music as well.
And how can people find you on social media?
Maryann Maisano on Facebook, Maryann Maisano on Instagram, Mayor Boom Boom on TikTok. It's MARYANNMAIS, like in Sam, ANO, and that's it. And then Mare, MARE, Boom Boom for TikTok.
She's on TikTok. I got TikTok, but I don't really use it. I don't have time for that.
TikTok, I'm very bad. I'm very political. It's all political on TikTok.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can be as political as you want.
I got almost 200,000 followers there, so I'm happy about that.
Oh, crew. See, politics does bring in the crew, doesn't it? I was having this debate with someone saying it's because you're political. You have a lot of numbers because you're political. And they were saying no. And I'm like, yeah. Politics brings more than entertainment. Yes, it does.
Yeah, well, it's funny because on TikTok, I'm only political. And then what I wind up doing is I wind up reposting on Instagram, only Instagram, some of the political, never Facebook.
Right.
Because it's demographics. It's an older demographic on Facebook. And you got to watch your audience, So I know where I can go down that road.
Absolutely. Yeah. If this was the last time you were ever going to talk to anybody, what would you say?
I would say that I might not have all the material things I used to have, but I've never been happier in my life.
Oh.
Because all I want to do is make an impact on people.
And if you've got any last words for the audience, what would you like to share?
To be kind and understand that putting oneself out there, regardless of what art form it is very difficult. And I applaud anybody that does anything. I get emails from young people saying, listen to my song. What do you think about it? Or what about this joke? Is this funny? And sometimes I don't think it's funny, but I write back. I'm going to give it away. My famous line is, that's so interesting.
If I get that response from you with anything, then I know it's not so good.
So interesting, right? Because you just you got to applaud people that have the cojones to get out there and do it and try it.
Right.
That's all. And you just gotta, I don't know, just gotta be in it. And you gotta be in the moment though. Every day you gotta live in the now.
Right. That's really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maryann, thank you so much for being on Chatbox with Sam. And I know the audience are going to love this interview. It's very funny and laughter is good for the soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I adore your accent. I have to say that.
Oh, thank you. I like yours too.
Thank you. Well, thank you, love. Have a wonderful day then, won't you?
All right, my darling. Thank you so
I'm
much.
going to turn you into Italian soon, okay? Ciao, Bella.
Oh, bel mistrio.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
I'm a bright star in the nighttime. I'ma go hard when it's my time. in the store.